Pascal's wager is one of the most misrepresented and dismissed arguments in philosophy. The biggest problem I see is that people only look at Pascal's wager in isolation, without considering what its actual purpose is and how it's only part of his greater work. So because this argument has, in my opinion, been incorrectly attacked, this video will attempt to explain Pascal's wager and steelman it in a sense. Now just to let y'all know, the wager argument can be found in Pascal's work, the Pense. The edition I'm using is translated by A.J. Krailsheimer. The first thing I want to point out is where this argument fits into Pascal's overall justification for faith. It's like a puzzle piece, it doesn't make much sense to look at it in isolation. Pascal's wager is not so much an argument for the existence of God, but rather an argument for the belief in the existence of God. Big difference there. This is not a cosmological or physical explanation, this is an ethical argument. He even starts off the argument not with a Christian perspective on the matter, but from an almost agnostic perspective. If there is a God, he is infinitely beyond our comprehension. Since, being indivisible and without limits, he bears no relation to us. We are therefore incapable of knowing either what he is or whether he is. So this argument is perfect for anyone agnostic, but probably not for someone who is 100% atheist and believes the existence of God is impossible. If you're thinking maybe, then this is gonna be for you. Now one more thing before we get into the actual argument. Pascal's wager can be read as a starting point for agnostics getting into Christianity. Near the end of the section, he writes about how there are next steps in this process, implying that this is not the end all. Specifically, he writes about following in the footsteps of other believers. Follow the way by which they began. They behaved just as if they did believe, taking holy water, having masses said, and so on. That will make you believe quite naturally, and will make you more docile. But philosophy tunes, that path doesn't sound like it leads to more rational proofs of God's existence. That sounds like faking it till you make it. The thing about Pascal, however, is that he's not just about rationality. In fact, he recognizes the limits of rationalism. Christianity can contain rational proofs, but it's also very much about personal, individual, mystical experience. From a whole other section from the Pense, he writes, "If we submit everything to reason, our religion will be left with nothing mysterious or supernatural. If we offend the principles of reason, our religion will be absurd and ridiculous." In summary, Pascal's job with the wager is to make one want to believe, the first step. Then, by following Christian practices, one might experience the more mystical and personal side of Christianity that is outside the bounds of reason. Reason's last step is the recognition that there are an infinite number of things which are beyond it. Now all this anti-reason talk might turn you off, but fear not. Pascal's wager is pretty heavily based on reason, according to him. So without further ado, let's get into the actual argument itself, and you could be the judge of that. So should you believe that God exists or that God doesn't exist? At the far end of this infinite distance, a coin is being spun, which will come down heads or tails. How will you wager? Reason cannot make you choose either. Reason cannot prove either wrong. So reason will not exactly prove the existence or absence of God, but rather reason can support your belief in the existence or absence of God through this wager. But why do you have to choose? Why not just keep to the "I don't know" agnostic position? Well, Pascal says, yes, but you must wager. There is no choice. You are already committed. I actually don't think Pascal himself gives a good reason for having to choose, but the pragmatist William James has a good explanation. Practically speaking, not choosing produces the same practical effect as choosing that God does not exist, because according to the Christian doctrine, belief is necessary to be saved. Therefore, by not choosing, you are still practically making a choice, so you can't really escape the responsibility here. Now at this point in the argument, I want you to put yourself in the mind of a gambler. Be really considerate of the risk here. In fact, later on I'll be referring to money values to help illustrate Pascal's point. But first, imagine a roulette wheel with 50-50 chances that God either exists or God doesn't exist. Now, I kinda disagree that an agnostic would say that the chances are exactly 50-50. I would say that the chances are more unknown. But that doesn't really matter, and I'll explain why in a bit. So you need to make a bet that either God exists or that he doesn't. But what are you wagering? Pascal says that you are staking the finite, meaning your life and will and beliefs. To bet that God exists or doesn't, you'd be making lifestyle changes that are substantial. Now some people think that this is a bad thing, but I think it really depends. Is living like a Christian really a sacrifice compared to living without Christianity? Well, there are certain restrictions on what you can do, but considering the vast variety of different denominations, it all depends. But let's just say you try to uphold the 10 Commandments. Is that really a sacrifice? Pascal says that even if you live a Christian lifestyle and quote-unquote lose the wager and God doesn't exist, some actual good things will still come of it. You will be faithful, honest, humble, grateful, full of good works, a sincere, true friend. It is true you will not enjoy noxious pleasures, glory and good living, but will you not have others? There's an element of subjectivity here, and I mean, hey, at times I'm a hedonistic mess, so I get it. But there's this one time I was on this student trip in Italy, and we passed by this school of nuns, and I asked my Catholic friend, wouldn't it suck for them if God didn't exist? They'd have given up all these pleasure-filled aspects of life for nothing. Now, my Catholic friend's response wasn't super convincing, but thinking about it later in life, who am I to judge these other lifestyles? Maybe they're content. Maybe they don't need these other pleasures in life to find contentment. I'm on the outside looking in. So again, I feel that it's a matter of subjective preferences. But let's say you consider it a loss regardless. But what you might lose is finite, while your potential for gain is infinite. You are essentially wagering the finite for the infinite. But here, there is an infinity of infinitely happy life to be won, but one chance of winning against a finite number of chances of losing, and what you are staking is finite. So you're wagering your finite life for either infinite happiness or infinite suffering. This table here is often shown to illustrate the different outcomes of the wager. Now, that sounds a little abstract, so let me put monetary values on this thing so the gambler in you can really evaluate it. Let's say you go to the casino and you find the roulette wheel. The wager is, let's say, $1 for now. The chances of winning are 50-50, according to Pascal, that is. If you win the 50-50 chances, you get infinite money forever. Rationally, that seems like a good bet for anyone. But is the bet really worth $1? Again, I think it depends on how serious you believe the sacrifice is of living a Christian lifestyle as opposed to a non-Christian lifestyle. If you're like Pascal, you see this as a win-win, where the Christian lifestyle makes you a better person regardless of the actual existence of God. But maybe you enjoy certain things in life that are antithetical to Christianity. Maybe you straight up don't like Christianity and have serious problems with it, and it'd be a hard pill to swallow to convert. So instead of saying the wager is the monetary equivalent to $1, I'll ask you to think of your own monetary equivalent to the lifestyle and belief change that you'd experience as a Christian. But why I don't think it matters very much is because the payout is enormous. Infinite money forever. I think that definitely appealed to any smart gambler, assuming you don't believe the monetary equivalent is extremely substantial, like your life savings or something. But again, that's up to you. For the most part though, rationally speaking, it makes sense to wager that God exists. If he does exist, you gain infinite happiness and eternal life. Or you gain infinite suffering if you bet against him. If he doesn't exist, any consequences, good or bad according to your opinion, will be finite. If you wager that God doesn't exist, you may be able to enjoy certain pleasures in life, but again, these are finite, and you'd risk an infinite loss. So there are some more vague parts of the wager, such as how much these non-Christian pleasures mean to you, and the mystery behind the actual chances. But hey, wagering the finite for a chance at an infinite gain sounds pretty good. Now again, this is just the first part of a larger whole that Pascal constructs for us. And not only scripture and practice is part of one's journey into Christianity, but also other parts of the Pense. For example, one of the most common critiques of Pascal's wager is what about other religions and other gods? Doesn't that just destroy the entire argument? Well, even if we consider it as just a criticism for Pascal's wager, I think that we could just easily add other religions into the God doesn't exist side of the coin flip. Or maybe the more accurate saying is that the Christian God doesn't exist. So the wager can take that into account fairly smoothly, I think. But more importantly, other parts of the Pense address why Christianity is distinguished from other religions. Specifically section 16 on the falseness of other religions, which I know is a kinda edgy title, but it does explain why Pascal believes Christianity should be pursued as opposed to other religions. And the section right after that, section 17, further distinguishes Christianity and explains why it's preferable to other religions in the sense that it's a very universal religion. Read them, disagree with them if you'd like, but it'd be a little dismissive to just throw away Pascal's wager because it doesn't address the issue of differing religions, especially when you can find that topic discussed in other areas of the Pense. It's like critiquing the statement, "I'm gonna punch them," without recognizing the larger context of, "I'm gonna punch them because they're running at my family with a knife screaming they're gonna kill them." So I know I had like 9 takeaways already from this video, but maybe the best takeaway of all is to read it yourself. Don't rely on me or anyone else on the internet to explain Pascal's wager to you, because the most authentic way to engage with it is not only to read it directly, but also read other parts of the Pense to fill in the gaps. But maybe you're busy and don't want to waste your time reading a 333-page book. I mean, the Elden Ring DLC may come out in 2024, so there are probably more important things going on. But hey, if you liked the video, be sure to subscribe for more philosophy content, and hit that like button so the video does well. And with that, I wish you all a beautiful rest of your day.